Hi, everyone, and welcome to the final review of the Contextual Intelligence Workshop, Biomimicry, AI, and the Land-Water Interface. My name is Provides. I'm currently a lecturer at the Bartlett School of Architecture, UCL. So I will first introduce a little bit what this workshop is about, and then I'll introduce our esteemed jury panel, and we will see everyone's final outcome. Very exciting. So this is part of the Design Scientist program that we organized this year. What participants went through was basically 2 weekends. On the first day, they learned about land-water interface and QGIS skills taught by Nabi. Day 2, they learned about biomimicry and grasshopper taught by Carlos to try and get some of the insight they learned about the site into a design prototype. And then day 3, when they came back, Jane introduced a bit more Grasshopper, but also AI visualization. And I introduced a bit of how Xfigura can help them to do precision editing with 60 AI models. And finally, today they will show that their final design output should comprise of these 5 elements. That first, they have a contextual awareness of how to read terrain and hydrological systems through the GIS data and mapping. And then they gain the biomimetic insight that can help translate the principles into conceptual system for architectural performance. Parametric agility is essentially after working all of the workflows, how do they connect 1 and 2 into a procedural design process through Rhino and Grasshopper? And using generative AI, they were able to explore alternative future and be able to present the visualization to us, bridging the ecological mapping, digital design, and speculative imagery. And finally, all participants work in group format, and it's supposed to help them with the design thinking across technical, ecological, and narrative register. The most important point is that this is a very workload heavy workshop with a lot of technical but also conceptual input. And so they were able to do the amazing work, which you would see through this collaborative method. So this is our instructors. Nabi is a PhD researcher currently at RMIT and super talented GIS cartographer. Jing is a computational designer currently at HKU, and she's really good at kinetic designs, but also advanced digital design. Carlos Rivera from URP, also advanced digital designer, very proficient in biomimetic design and architecture. And finally, there's me. I'm a lecturer at the Bartlett, and I'm more specialized in participatory intelligence and how we can synthesize environment social parameters within a site context. Also a bit background of the Design Scientist program. We actually organize it to help and build an ecology where architects and designers receive free technology upskill to navigate the digitized industrial landscape. So the entire workshop is free and open to all. But in return, they have to give back to society. So participants who are available will help us engage public school youth and bring some of the ESG knowledge to their curriculum. So the course is essentially taught by international crew of experts. So we've got people from Latin America, Europe, and Asia. And the only requirement to join this is commitment, collaboration, and social service. We actually have over 60 participants sign up in just 3 days. So within this workshop scope, we couldn't accommodate everyone. So who you would be seeing are essentially a selected 30 participants based on their expertise, experience, and their level of commitment. Yeah. And finally is our very esteemed panel of judges, not according to any particular order. So Davi Doria is currently the tech lead at Automated Architecture, very experienced in machine learning architecture, also was a skilled tutor at the Bartlett School, UCL. Dr. Felix Learn is an ecological scientist and currently the head of climatic and social action at the Museum of Climate Change at the CUHK. Dr. Theo Danas is the digital pioneer at Howard University, architect, also very experienced with advanced digital design, but also has background in entrepreneurship, blockchain architecture, and so on. Yao Yao is a robotics and biomaterial specialist at the Bartlett School of Architecture, UCL. So she's also very experienced in bio-inspired design. And finally, with Giovanna, who is the co-founder at Ala, also currently with Xfigura, which is one of our AI-infused platform, helping architects to turn design into visualizable graphics with over 60 AI models. And she also make beautiful, beautiful design with parametric systems. So we're very, very lucky to actually have all of them with us today. Before we start, I would also share the background that all of them have the same site. So this site is essentially in Hong Kong, and we chose the site because it has a very interesting combination of landscape. It has a new development, actually bridging between older villages, fish farms, abandoned farm sites, and ecological sensitive site. The park itself is supposed to serve social purpose, so it has a whole series of indoor and outdoor exercise spaces for citizens to enjoy. However, we've also got villages next door that was reported to have been flooded consecutively 3 years. We've went to a site visit and we realized that some of these are periodic floods, but some of these are more occasional floods. And it's because of the uneven distribution of terrains and how water actually flows. So that kind of partly inspired this workshop, that it wasn't just about where architect want things to happen, but also respecting the natural water-land interface. It's also a site that is ecologically sensitive. We have a whole bunch of mangroves, wetland topology around the site. So it's a very special landscape with a lot of potential, but also a lot of challenges to navigate and question if architecture intervene, and if we need to intervene, how do we actually balance between natural, cultural, and other parameters within one project? And so the theme is contextual intelligence, which hopes that before we design, we actually have more understanding of context before applying technological tools. And with that, I think I will invite the, if Carlos and Jane, do you have anything you want to share before we start with the first team?
No, I think you've already covered everything to start, so I think it's fine on my side.
No from my side either.
Great. So without further ado, we will start with group 7 is Angeline Suridi, Hollis Hui, Famida Osman, and Choi Wing Zi. Before they start, I'd like to confirm if Hollis is already here. Oh,
Yeah, she's already in.
great. Thank you so much. Okay. Group 7, are you ready?
Hi, can everyone hear and see my page?
Yes, perfect.
Very nice to meet you, all of you. As Provide's already said, there's Angeline, me, Hollis, Wendy, and Famida in this group. We created a project which is called Reroute, and the objective is to design a living infrastructure that can help to redirect and slow down runoff. And at the same time, we want to focus more on using biodegradable material to support a circular economy. So our research question for this project is, how can mycelium-based scaffolding systems and their engineered morphology be used to guide root development, serve as biodegradable infrastructure that slows, stores, and filters stormwater runoff, as well as enhance ecological continuity in Saisha? Angeline.
Wait, could it change to my share screen so we can do the
Oh,
Sorry.
do you see my screen or no?
Yes, I was gonna switch it to mine so we can present full screen.
Oh, is it not full screen?
No, not right.
Okay. Sorry.
Okay. Sorry for the little hiccup. But anyways, I'm gonna continue with the contextual analysis. So first, Saisha is in the Saigon district of Hong Kong, and it's a low-lying coastal landscape undergoing a rapid transformation. So right now, there's a plan to develop the space, and they're gonna introduce a lot of new apartments and parks and so on, increasing the impervious surfaces in the site. And this also includes the plan to increase the size of the Saisha Road. And this is problematic because it increases the acceleration of the runoff coming down and also redirects it to places that leaves the existing villages such as Cheha, Sungsao, and Makulam to become flooded more than they did before. And right now they're only relying on engineering drainage, which has lots of issues because it ends up draining to certain houses that now have recurrent flooding. So how can we learn from biomimicry to actually redirect these naturally and bring it back to a state of balance?
Hi. At first, we trying to use QGIS map to see there's a very heavy flow on the top area next to the Cha Chaha village. So our site will be focusing on that part, and we try to use the Grasshopper stream plugin, and plus I try to make a rainfall simulation to see how the particles join together.
To support the biomimicry inspiration for this project, we want to use a more living systems thinking approach. So our main question is how can we as humans leverage non-human organisms to collaborate with a design and fabrication process? So if you look at the inspiration from the left, we're focusing on using mycelium, which is a fibrous root-like system or fungi, and we want to use it to serve as a binding material or like a natural glue, which can strengthen the bonds within the soil as well. So this method is called biocementation, and it is also a biodegradable material, which means it also breaks down leaves, logs, and organic matter, which can also help with balancing the pH. So if you look at the image on the left at the bottom, second bottom, this is an visual inspiration that we really liked and we're really focusing on. It is actually based on a exhibition from Clara at YCube, and it's called Echo. And we are really interested in that idea of creating an underground laboratory, but at the same time, she uses mycelium and sprouting fungi as the materials, which will emerge from these services as seen on the ground. So so similar to this process, we want to create a structure that has this organic structural form, which also introduces that idea that it's a living matter and it's durational as well.
So this is our design sketches to show how our scaffolding will help with the tree roots to grow. So we are planning to So our design focus will be having a mycelium-based scaffold, and it fills with some crushed shells because on the neglected land, the yellow soil is more acidic and it's not ideal for plants grow, and it also causing the runoff worse when it's flooded and having heavy rain. So we will proposing the scaffolding to guide the tree growth along the site, and it will degrade it over time. and the nutrition inside the scaffolding will release back to the soil and encouraging more greenery and tree growth on the neglected field. So our design process and logic, we are thinking how to design the scaffold system, and it can be applied on many other projects. So at first, I try with any design form and collect the environmental data, color mapping by ladybugs, and scatter the points around the geometry. So the hottest area will ideally have a largest, more pores and have largest pores, and cooler area have less pores. So to allow tree growth on the certain area. And then we think about how we want the geometry to pop up on the ground, and some are submerged underground. So we wanted the geometry underground has the pores to allow the tree growth. So the geometry on top will be more solid, as used for like physically directing the rain runoffs, and also be part of the visual of the landscape.
This is also another visual representation of how the design structure would look like. And ideally, in the top, as Wendy already mentioned, the pores will be smaller and there will be more pores on the bottom as well. So this is a picture of it in scale as well as we iterate in the, throughout the design process.
Okay, and here is a section taken in our site of interest, pointing out the pain points that we previously had and how our intervention would try to change that. So our main problems is obviously the runoff, the hillside runoff, and this is made worse by the yellow soil. This makes it easier for erosion to happen when the runoff comes through, and then because of the impervious surfaces as well, there's less surface area to absorb the water in, and this is what results in that flood that we hear in the news and so on. And so first, we want to reroute the water. And then secondly, we will reinforce the soil to make it stronger and resilient to future flooding events. And we also want to regrow, because the root acts not only as a way to redirect the water and as reinforcing the ground, but also regenerates a new landscape for the area that the public can enjoy. And here is the visualization we made using X Figura.
Angeline, I think you missed the X
Yeah.
figure.
Is it showing?
No.
What is showing on the screen right now?
The two cross sections of the site. So just
Okay.
click one more time.
I
Yes.
changed slide. Okay, yes, this was the X Figura visualization.
And then you can go on to the next slide and we can close off the presentation. So our design explores how living systems like root networks and mycelium operate as adaptive infrastructure, which are capable of slowing water, improving soil quality, and responding to flood-prone landscapes. Instead of prescribing a form, the workflow translates terrain and hydrological data into site-specific growth patterns that respond to environmental conditions over time. For us, this project is less about an architectural object and more about a change in the way we design. One that allows us to reimagine architecture is something that collaborates with natural processes. And in doing so, we begin to blur the boundaries between the built, the artificial, and the natural, treating landscapes as the dynamic living organisms and self-organizing actors that they are. Thank you. Yeah. We hope you enjoyed the presentation and we are open to any questions that you might have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for being the first team. It's not easy. So thank you so much. Now let's hear comments or any questions our judges might have.
I can go first.
Yes, thank you.
I have a couple of questions, I think. Don't know if you guys are going to answer it or not, but
We will try.
right. So my first question is, you mentioned environmental data, but you also mentioned runoff, that simulation you did, and using mycelium. For me, it was a little bit in the design process that you showed in that, like you have a flow image at some point, showing like 4 different steps. And you mentioned environmental data, and I was curious, like what actually kind of data are you using there to drive that?
Okay.
Yeah,
Wendy
was
can
that
jump in
image?
after me. But when we are to choose our locations, if you go onto the slide with, yeah, this one, ideally, this is conceptual, but ideally we tried to look at, sorry, we need to go back one more, Angeline. So I looked at the highest daily temperature that happened last year, which was the 10th of June, 2025. Sorry, Angeline. Okay, anyways, and I looked at the peak summer time, which was between 11 and 3. And if we do LB incident radiance, that would help us determine where the planting of the trees would be in order for us to provide shade. And this is where we would also put our our scaffolding. We could also overlay our water flow and our water stream. So if we go onto the main map, I'm not sure if Angeline can go onto the main map, the QGIS map. Yes. So if we look at the thickest line here, that was where runoff was the most. And we tried to look within the site where there was hardened or agricultural land and where we could also improve the soil quality. So if conditions aligned, then we would maybe consider planting trees there, firstly because there's space and also because all of those conditions meet. If Wendy and Hollis or Angeline want to jump in, that's good too. Any comments?
On the design process diagram, I can try to explain more how the environmental data could use for the design geometry next time. Yes. So the color mapping is done with Ladybug. So this our site temperature, the solar radiation. So if we can turn the color mapping into black and white and change it like the data into 1 and 0. So the darker area will be 1 and the lighter area will be 0. And then we can scatter the point we can control where we wanted to have more points and where we wanted to have less point to create a gradient torus so that we can control where to have more tree roots to grow on and where we don't want tree root to grow on the scaffolding. And
Okay, thank you. I don't want to hold everyone on answering this question. I see Theo has his hand raised.
Yes, Theo.
Thank you. Really interesting. Thank you for your presentation. Yes, and it is challenging actually presenting first. I would like to ask within your logic, because you're dealing with a subject that has multiple scales, how does your method or approach translate between scales? Because you're working obviously on a very low scale, but you also presented images that coordinate a much more urban approach. So how does that happen? How do you work between scales?
yes, so obviously I don't think it's feasible to fabricate a huge object for an urban scale. So we focus on one unit first. So we're thinking of a unit like a tree pot. So this geometry we're looking at, it used as a tree pot for every single trees, and then we ideally can generate different shapes and according to the site, but because we don't have enough time, so it's very hard to explain it in one picture. But ideally, we wanted to have more like different shapes and then can scatter along the site. We think it needs more protection and we wanted to redirect the rain runoff. Also, the tree can absorb the rainwater. So the idea is this unit will be scattered along the site.
Okay, so
If that makes
essentially
sense.
it's the environmental data mapping that you do, and that gets translated into point densities, and those point densities can scale or not scale.
Yes, so the site environmental data can also so we can decide how much we can scatter on the site based on the solar data, because we can predict where's the best location for tree growth and where's not. So we can based on that data to scatter our design units.
Okay. And maybe one last, maybe a little bit difficult question. So once you do that, your site will change. Have you thought of a mechanism that you could keep on going back and recurringly kind of change the like adapt, continue adapting?
Yeah, so what I do want to mention also is that we would obviously test this experimental thing in one pilot site. So we chose one pilot site, and from there we see how it actually works, and we adjust our design through iteration. And as we see how the roots take form, if they take form. Obviously, nature is something that is unpredictable and uncertain. We cannot force it. We have to allow it to, and then see what happens, and then acclimatize to nature. So we're constantly working with nature and adapting and evolving and then adjusting. Yeah. So it's going to obviously be tested only on one side. I think the AI image obviously is the ideal condition, if I say so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I think we only have time for maybe one more question, and I know that Felix might have to leave early. Do you have any questions or input for us?
Yeah, well, this is quite a new concept to me, like using mycelium. So yeah, I'm quite excited to see how it works. maybe you could also make it more specific on like what tree species it will be like compatible with, because I know it doesn't work for like all kind of trees. Yeah. So
Thank you. Yeah. Ideally, we'll also look at what local trees are there and then try to work with the local species. And obviously, whichever species we can introduce should also align with the current conditions or the current context, so they'll be able to thrive.
Thank you. Maybe Yao Yao and Gio can comment on the next project. But thank you so much, Great One. Super, super proud of you. It's crazy. Only 2 weekends and you're able to have such innovative ideas. Okay, let's move on to the next team, which is Group 6, Macy Mack, Grazia Mujono, Leah Yarifa, and Shivanji. Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
I will share my screen.
Thank you.
Is it visible?
It's coming. It's loading. Yes, we do.
So, hi, I'm Shivangi, and I will be presenting on behalf of Maisie, Gracia, and Leah. So, our project we titled as A Creative Reef. Moving forward, we started with our site observations. Like we have seen, like the site is very rich to its ecological and geological formations, and it also, if we notice, there is 1 kilometer away, there is one site, and which was also demarcated as a scientific research coast, where it's very rich in coastal ecology because it contains mudflats, marshlands, beaches, mangroves, and intertidal fauna together. So like it has like inhabited multiple species in one site. And also the geological formation shows like how the sectional thickening of the site is throughout the gradient. Further, the key characteristics we observed was in hydrology, like it between the mountain and coastal region, and also like the strong surface runoff happens during the typhoon season, and it's very vulnerable to storm surge, sea level rise, and flooding. And also the climate is a subtropical humid and have very heavy monsoon rains and very high solar radiations. And if we look deeper into, like there is also a controversial, like mountain terrain versus an urban compression, and also like highly engineered water infrastructure versus fragmented ecological corridors. So our site sit between threshold conditions like mountain and coastal bay, density and openness, freshness, fresh water, and also the salt water, controlled environments and adaptable environments. And major causes of the flooding is indifference to the local river system in the planning of development of Shaisha, and also inadequate municipal drainage mains in the villages, and climate change, more extreme weathers are happening right now. So the problem statement was Saisha is increasingly flood vulnerability due to the steep watershed runoff, tidal fluctuations, and hard engineered coastal boundaries that treat water as an external threat rather than an integrated system. And also the current reliance on infrastructure produce ecological rigidity and social fragmentation, necessitating a rethinking of a site as a social ecological water system rather than a territory to be protected from the water. So we started taking an inspiration from a coral pulp. And why? Because it also helps to, it follows the incremental growth, collective formation, highly porous rather than blocking the environment, and also dissipates wave energy. And at the same time, it's also habitat for multiple species. And how we are going to translate into an architecture system is like small attachable spatial units clustered to form a thickened architecture, and fragmented masses can like to avoid the monolithic wall or something. And also submerge the lower, like can create a gradient where the submerged lower pipes can be a marine habitat, intermediate can be a human habitats, and the upper can be a birdings. So our major research question was, how can a coral polyp inspired a creative architectural system enables adaptive coexistence with flooding in Shaisha while reconnecting fragmented ecological and social structures through computational design. And we thought, like, inspired by coral polyps and colonies, this proposal does not design a barrier to stop the flood. Instead, it embraces the periodic undulation with porous accretion to address ecological rigidity and replacing isolated spaces with collective formation to overcome the social fragmentation. The project proposes a minimum impact, thickened multiple species coastal architecture that adapts to tidal and runoff dynamics while integrating marine habitats, bird nesting, resting platforms, and shared public spaces. So we started with a one module design, and we thought of a different level of porosity across, like from top to bottom, like low porosity at the top and the high porosity at the bottom to also allow uh, to adapt to the water. And also we were also thinking about using the biomaterials for the structures, like bioconcrete, marine limestone aggregates, recycled shelled, permeable geopolymers, and marine grain stainless steel. So further, we thought how we should aggregate those modules onto the site. And we started with an analysis, like the slope analysis, the solar radiation analysis, water runoff analysis, and what the actual social activity is happening on the site. So we decided, like, how, like, coral polyps require more sun to be functional. So we choose high radiational sun exposure sites, and at the same time we also choose to have the site which currently creates an empty pockets and less mangroves over the site. And then further we divided into three parts, like higher terrain regions, lower terrain regions, and the interface between land and coastal areas. So the first can be like used by humans overly, and it can be placed with a shorter heights. Then the second can be with the tall and higher, where people can walk under and everything. And third is floating modules, which can also be used as later on developed as a reef. So this were our first initials visual while thinking about the site. And yeah, so we've further planned, like, how the water runoff analysis can help, and we demarcate the flow lines, and accordingly we choose to aggregate the structures on it. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Second team, let's see if the judges have any questions and comments. Maybe we can quickly take from Yao Yao and Gio, and if Felix has any also.
Sure, I can start quickly. I think it's quite a nice project and very coherent study with a lot of macro scale analysis. I think the only comment I can give is pretty much driven by the growth of the actual coral, because you mentioned about using coral reef, well, I would say coral polyps as the main methodologies in terms of design. Are you planning to actually let the species around the coast to deposit on your structure, or it's only pretty much inspiring the design at the biomimicry stage? Sorry, that's a question to Shivanji.
Yes, so we were planning to attract inhabited the species as well, because we don't want to just make like a structure which just dedicate to stop the flooding, but it also incorporate with the inhabitants and the flooding. So like yeah, we were planning to using biomaterials for the structure, so it also helps to attract more marine species and birds and definitely humans.
Right. So this actually leading to my second question. When we are looking at, let's say, the deposition of, let's say, the biomineralization of certain species around the area, then you will need to look at the kinetics of the water, the pH level, as well as the temperature around the area. So I think in the future study, if you can incorporate some microscale analysis towards growth regulation, then that might help the project to be really convincing. So that's my end of my comments. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Oh,
Yeah.
Theo has. Or Gio or Theo?
Yes,
Sorry.
I have a question because I see that the project is like a massive. So my question is about how do you think that this project will works thinking in environmental route design with people who live around, or maybe governments, or maybe another species that are going around the area?
Sorry, I was not able to hear first off. Can you repeat?
Sure. So I can see that your project is very massive in design and the elements. So how you can see in the futures this environmental system where communities and also other natural species can have a relationship in the area.
So currently, while studying the contextual existing context, so we notice there are many empty plots, and there are fragmented housing, like small villages fragmented to the institutional or mixed used areas or complex. And so we choose that specifically those sites, the empty slots, which also connects to which kind of creates an ecological corridor and also the social corridors together. So that's how we thought like we can connect with the existing sites through our modules. If I'm not sure if I answered the question correctly.
Yeah, this is okay. I guess that in general is a very complete concern about the conceptual project. So thank you.
Let's take one from Theo, and then let's see if Felix has any last comments.
Thank you for your presentation. Really interesting. Maybe perhaps a bit of a comment in terms of how you visualized. I liked it that you went with the research question. in terms of developing the concept. Potentially one of the key things that, if you can go to the next slide, that would actually help. One of the things that you're trying to do is kind of work on a biomimetic kind of idea. I was not clear on how you came up with this kind of module. And then I think if you take it a little bit as a criticism, that this gets repeated in a, let's say, classical architectonic manner within the larger area. So it doesn't really kind of adapt as it gets copied. So have you given a thought about whether these would actually adapt or change form as it gets positioned around it? And potentially one more question is, with my limited knowledge of biology, polyops can get out of control really fast. Did you try to have any kind of controlling mechanism that would, let's say, balance the system and arrive at the correct form without it losing scale and form?
I guess for the form right now we have taken exactly what the conical shape polyps are, and yes, it's quite repetitive, and we didn't thought much about how it can varies, but we definitely thought like maybe the scale changes, like the higher terrain can have a small scale compared to the lower terrain site, and similar to the water area. So, and we haven't yet thought much about how it should be change in form or adapt to this environmental analysis.
To add, because like it's a bird's perching or nesting area, I reckoned that using bioconcrete and calcium carbonate base can actually make plants like derive better to the structure, like using trees or branches that actually can delve in the structure to make the structure a bit stronger.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's a very valid comment to actually, like, after completed other project, maybe you get some sleep to like reflect on, okay, there's a modular design. How can we also learn from nature in terms of its aggregation logic and distribution logic? But let's see if Felix has a last comment.
Yeah, so I think the area near Sage Shah is not too suitable for corals to grow. So I guess you could explore like oyster. So there's used to be a lot of native like oyster reef near that area. So this kind of structure could create a substrate for the oyster larvae to attach on and to restore the oyster reef, which is a very we call it nature-based solutions. So it could purify the water and also protect the coastline in the long run. So yeah, it's very interesting. Thanks.
Thank you. Yes, it's good to have an ecological scientist on the team. Thank you so much, Felix. And thank you so much to Group 6. Well done. I mean, it's a short amount of time. It's completely natural that not all of the logics are sorted out, but I think it's a very good starting point to actually raise some important questions over how architects should think about their work and what might be the limitation to current computational approach. So congratulations. Let's go to the next team, which is Group 3. Let's see, Derek, Bicho, Abraham, and Rao. Abraham, are you guys here? Let's see. Oh, I don't see them in the.
Yeah, I don't think they have joined yet.
Okay, they're probably in another time zone. It's completely fine. Let's then go to team 5. We have Sincere, Lorna, Philippa, and Heidi.
Cool.
Hi.
Hi guys, good morning. Well, actually, good night. Should I start sharing?
Of course.
Okay, just a sec. You guys see my screen?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So do you guys know how to put like on full screen? Like I'm trying to, or it doesn't matter.
On the
I
first
mean,
3 dots that you clicked, it had a modo
on
de
the first one?
telecheia. Yeah,
Oh yeah, okay.
it was modo
Oh,
telecheia.
perfect. Thank you.
No worries.
Thank you.
I don't know that Davi knows French. Was that French?
That was
It was
Portuguese.
Portuguese. Yeah. Are you from Brazil?
Yes.
Well, nice to meet you. Sincere, do you want to start?
Yep, sure. Could you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
You guys. All right, great. Okay, so our group come up with this project concept called Saisa Roots Nexus. So we wanted to create a waterscape for all, which the root nexus reimagines connectivity in a floodplain landscape through a mangrove-inspired watercourse that unites water flows, communities, and stakeholders. So this system will channel the flood water through underground treatment works, transforming it into reusable resource for non-potable needs like irrigation and toilet flushing in the surrounding neighborhoods. And then the root nexus, it would comes with shaded canopies where the exposed mangrove structures will create vibrant community spaces for residents, businesses, and local groups to together collaborate and build resilience together. So echoing the legacy of Saisao Road, which the floodplain area is located at, this concept hopes to bridge the traditional market and fishing town of Saikong with the modern satellite city of Shating developed in the 1970s. And this project also hopes to undo different links. It not just mitigates flooding in the area, but also weaves the different social bonds together. And through this project, we hope to empower the diverse stakeholders in the region to co-create sustainable harmony in Saisha. So when we start the project, we thought of several questions to explore. For example, we thought about the key problems that the community is facing there, and are there any additional needs in the region? And then we also look into the cause of flooding. In the last few sections, we noticed that different groups have different interpretations of the flooding, but we did more research over different news reportings, and also we did some virtual site visits on Google Maps to understand the landscape. And so we look into whether those flooding causes are natural or anthropogenic causes. And then we try to think about how to best address the needs of the people in the community to create value. And finally, we think about how we might define and integrate sustainability into the solution throughout the whole project cycle. So the next slide, I'll pass it to Philippi to talk about the map and contextual analysis.
Of course. So during our QG's workshop, we could do the study of the channelings and how the hydraulic system works in the region. And as I feel like the other groups talked about it already, we have this two forces of water coming in. The first one are the typhoons and the hydraulic stress that's putting the villages in the region during also caused by climate crisis and things as such. But the most important part is again the uphill runoff, which is usually treated as a specific kind of drainage system. So when we zoom in, and I'm doing this right now, we can see that the channels in red, they are grouping around the road system that's been built that Sincere talks about, and most of them are getting are following the path, and some are going directly towards the water. But we have two sites here. They are the main let's put it in issues in here, which are the sites that are getting passed through the channelings, and and they have a lot of built up area and not the surface is not permeable, so they're the stress points of the site. This is the project of the roads widening that took place there, also together with the new development that happened there. And Cynthia, do you want to talk about the rainfall map?
Yeah, so we did a virtual site visit on Google Map, and we noticed that most of the flood-prone area, they are covered with non-permeable pavements. And we also check out the annual rainfall in Hong Kong, and we noticed that the Saisa village, they're actually located at some of the high rainfall regions. So this map is from the Hong Kong Observatory. And even when we backtrack the average annual rainfall in 2023, 2022, in the past few years, the Sai Kung and Sha Tin region also falls under the high rainfall region, which means even without special weather events like typhoon, annually speaking, this area would also be subjected to occasional flooding.
All right. So when we did the 3D modeling with a rain simulation on the terrain and on Rhino, we tried to develop in a way that we could keep it simple and combine all this Sponge City strategies in a way that we could take all of the uphill runoff and not channel it and not put it in a pipe and send it directly towards the water, but to make it go following its own path, which is already following most of the landscape, and but make it in a way that we could make it the velocity and the strength which it comes towards the water a little bit softer and causing less damage during its impact. So in order to think that, we propose as a strategy, like as a structuring strategy, this kind of belt, this kind of ring, which would be like a wetland system starting from the end of the uphill, collecting the uphill runoff, and then again following the water path, redirecting, directing towards the ocean. Sincere or Heidi, do you guys want to add anything here?
Yeah, I think the whole concept is to collect the flood water, whether it's from those flood-prone areas or directly from the surface runoff, to an underground water drainage system that will bring the water out to the oceans.
All right, so we have some first like conceptual images of what we were trying to do, and of course, like this is very conceptual, as I said, but we are trying to make this zone, the red zone, into this buffer, into this place where we could then manage the uphill runoff. I'm gonna show the next one. And then this is a kind of a small section where we would create a combination between the wetlands and the because the structure would not be only to diverse the water, but also to it has the social and the social condition that Cecile was talking before. So it also it is also a place of gathering, a place of experimenting this environment, and at the same time working as a solution based, a nature based solution to help the flooding situation. And this is more of a not so conceptual image. So because we were trying to connect the all the context, the people living there, and how we can merge this wetland into the coastal area and try to reimagine this whole place. And Heidi, do you want to come from here?
Okay, can you hear my voice? Okay, so to move beyond the traditional green infrastructure, we look toward biomimicry inspiration, specifically the structural rising of mangrove roots, coral reefs, and plant vascular systems like xylem and coral. And we analyze how mangrove roots and coral reefs act as a natural breakwaters, physically disrupting with energy and creating like frictional drag to dissipate water velocity. And our workflow is inspired by these biological strategies into a functional nature-based solution through a few key phases, which we want to simulate and generate and then optimize. So the final output is more than just a dream. It is a nature-based solution public area. Maybe you can go to the next slide. Next slide. Okay, so this is the algorithm process of our project. It begins with a fundamental realization to solve flooding issues. And we want to stop obstructing the landscape and start honoring the way of water using a computational algorithm to simulate rainfall, allowing us to see water paths that sustain and redirect flow without harming the ecological environment. And in the first step, we perform a water runoff simulation, and we can see exactly when the water naturally dissipates and accumulates, identifying the roots of this hydrological system. And in step two, we isolate the critical zones by dividing the source, it is the water located at the higher area, and the end water, which allows us to understand the trajectory of the water and identify where the existing infrastructure is most at risk of disruption. And in step three, we extract specific data points that run off the map, and in these points act as geometric foundation of our architectural intervention. And finally, in step four, we apply the 3D proximity and shortest path algorithm, which calculates the most efficient routes to direct water safely through the site. And the result is a symbiotic architecture that doesn't just sit around but actively participates by facilitating rather than fighting the natural flow. I think that's all from us. Thank you so much.
Sorry, what did you say?
Can you
She
hear
said
my
that that
voice?
was the end.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's see if the judges have any questions.
I have one question. It wasn't really clear to me how you decided. I mean, you
Davi, you
mentioned
wanted to say something, but there's no voice. There's no sound.
really. Can
Oh,
anyone?
I can hear David.
Okay, I think it's you, Pro.
No sound. Sorry.
Okay.
Pro, we can hear him.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's if that's you essentially, or at least I can
Yeah,
hear
I can
David.
hear him.
Yeah.
Maybe you muted me, Pro.
Oh, then it's just me. Sorry, don't mind me.
Yeah. Okay, I just have a quick question anyways. It's you mentioned mangroves and corals at some point, and then you also showed a few shapes that look like coral, not coral, but mangrove roots holding this structure. So, but you didn't, at least I didn't get how you are designing these shapes and how you are implementing these shapes. And I understand that it can hold the water speed and you don't so the water runoff gets a bit controlled, but how you're getting to that particular shape under this belt and why is that beneficial, that's something that I missed in your presentation.
Well, so I feel like the main idea is, thank you for your question. But the main idea is trying to convey this water paths as this system of uh, slowing down the runoff and also being part of the social tissue and for the communities around the area. But the structure is mostly based on mangrove, but unfortunately we didn't have time enough to develop it. So I feel like we stayed in the stage of more a conceptual kind of sketch rather than the whole thing. But and then the algorithm was was the how can I say that? It was like this approach towards what would be the best path or the best solution for this kind of passages following the mangrove and etc.
Thank you.
Yeah, I kind of had a similar kind of question. So what I liked is exactly what you said in the end. You had a bit of a balance between algorithmic emergence and guiding the solution by hand conceptually. So on your macro scale, renders, I can understand and see the compelling factor of how you would like to control flooding from that perspective. But then when you go down to scale and we see kind of like the architectonic level, it is unresolved. And I think that's a kind of lost opportunity because if you did have a little bit more of experimentation, even incomplete, it would kind of strengthen the project of how you could show us in a lower scale, close to human scale of how this works essentially.
Yeah, I agree totally, and thank you for your question. I feel like when we finalize the workshop, maybe we could get the four of us again and try to develop as a side, because it's a pity that we still want to develop it.
Yeah, I mean, the other problem with getting a micro scale to work on a larger scale is that you need to spend a lot of time experimenting and a lot of time failing. So, and it requires massive amounts of patience. So.
Thank
Yeah, I guess my comment is very near to the previous ones. I guess that you have a cut section where we can understand the scale of each like model. I guess that this last landscaping render is more massive. So yeah, I'm wondering if maybe this solution will also convert in a barrier in between the water and the communities. And yeah, that's also very in relation of how we are thinking in the ecological system that you have or these communities have in the area. And maybe the solution, it is not a very detailed of these pipes that are going to the base. Maybe this will convert in another problem. But I guess that the basic concept and also the studios that you have about the water are very interesting also.
Thank you. Thank you for your comment. I don't know if Heidi wants to say anything.
Great, then thank you so much for this team. Because we are running a little bit late, so maybe we don't have a break. We have 3 more teams left. So let's go directly to group 4, which is Tracy, Vania, Rodrigo, and Wei Hao.
Hello, 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 everyone.
Hi.
Let's just share my screen. Can you see my screen?
It's loading. Yes.
No? You can see?
Yes.
Okay, hi everyone. So right now I just presented by the mirror. I don't know if we can make a presentation like a slide by slide. Hi everyone. The project name Adaptive Roof explore how coastal and hydrological infrastructure can evolve beyond grid static defense to respond to climate-driven extreme. So Sansha, look, I don't need to introduce Sansha. So the project asks how can bio-based pros a infrastructure system replace rigid coastal defense by functioning as distributed climate responsive hydrological infrastructure across urban and coastal zone. So go here. So Saisha's existing hydrological and urban system were designed for stable climate condition. Today they face two converging pressure. First, increasingly intense rainfall, and second, the coastal edge resilience against sea level rise and extreme storm events. As a result, water flow is disrupted as sediment cycle are broken and ecological connection between upland and urban lowland and the coastal collapse during extreme events. The project actually begin with wave direction analysis and hydrological mapping of Sansha. Wave study reveal dominant driven wave direction impacting the coastline, intensively erosion and surge pressure at specific coastal segments. Sim s- Simultaneously, runoff analysis show how water flows from hillside catchment to urbanized zone before discharging into the sea, often too fast or too concentrated and without ecological mediation. So this analyze reveal a critical insight. The problem is not only at the coastal, but along the entire hydrological path from mountain to the sea. So for the design and shift from we from object to system instead of design single coastal object or barrier. This project propose a distributed infrastructure system. Water is no longer treated as something to be blocked, but as a dynamic condition that must be slow, observed, filtered, and negotiate across the space and time. This shift reframed infrastructure from a fixed defense into a responsive evolving system uh, embedded within nature process. So we asked as the previous team, we also our bio inspiration and our the design logic also came from mangrove root network, which slow water and trap sediment and and stabilized shifting ground, and also coral reefs, which displace wave energy through Pearl branching geometries. And also not here, also our big bio or inspiration also is the sci-fi style mechanism. They encode hydrological behavior responding to flow, velocity, sediment load, and environmental pressure. Um, this kind of walking bio infrastructure at the core of this proposal is the system of this stuff. These are slow moving, seeming autonomous structure that migrate along hydrological path from hillside runoff through urban lowland to coastal discharge point. As it approached the coast, the system transformed into a coral-like interface designed to dissipate waves energy, buffer a storm surge, and restore ecological continuity between land and sea. As you can see, this section. So this section drawing reveal how this walking bioinfrastructure operate internally as the combined hydrological and structure and ecological system. So at the top, the surface water intake zones collect rainfall and runoff during storm events. Water enter a sequence of like porous filtration cavities where flow velocity is induced and the sediments begin to settle. So at the core of the structure it provides vertical stability while housing internal water channel that guide filtered water downward into in a controlled manner. Uh, below the ground, the system transition into a road-like artery network, flexing structure core and joint. This joint allows slow movement and reconfiguration while segment archery mechanism stabilize saturate soil and prevent erosion. So yeah, so far this is our like some visualizing. So our main thing is to like I mentioned uh More like sci-fi mechanism stuff. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's hear from our judges.
Like, can I go first? I know I commented on the previous one, but I
Yes,
also
of
want to
course,
comment on this
please.
one. To start with, I really appreciate the sci-fi speculative approach that you took to this, and because of that, I think I can be a bit more precise on my comments because I think I really appreciated this presentation. I feel like the mangroves, if you think of mangroves, they are horizontal and spread out structures. And you have
Yes.
in this area, you have a problem with the soil, right? With water concentration, how's it called? The water runoff damaging the soil and the structures that are around it. And as much as I really like your visuals and what you are proposing with this moving structure that can go around and fix stuff, I find that it sounds to me like it would create more problems than it would fix. Just because, like as I said, mangroves are horizontal and spread out, and you made a vertical, really tall thing that filtrates, seeks to filtrate, and that's my my comment here. Maybe you have something to say about how it would benefit from being a vertical structure, but it sounds to me like you guys got a little bit lost in the story. And again, I'm saying this with full appreciation for going super speculative. I really, really, really like this. So yeah, that's my 2 cents.
You're right. We're a bit of lost on the narrative parts, but like as our imagination, like after like we have like vertical stuff, maybe not vertical stuff or uh something on the ground. Yeah, you're right, but
Let's hear from Theo too.
Yeah, I would have a kind of similar comment, mainly on some of your images are extremely compelling. Sorry, I think he's here. Okay, sorry, I thought we lost him. They're extremely compelling and potentially, completely AI generated, or it would be interesting to listen to exactly how you guided potentially the AI to come up with these images. In your section, sorry, go on.
Yeah, sorry. We first have the logic, of course, and then we have the basic model, the root stuff, and then the
Okay.
core stuff, and then we generate those kind of different we not at very beginning with the vertical. We also have like tiny, like not vertical stuff, but we try first model everything, and then put it into to our site.
Okay.
And then we have like on the Rhino, we have like screenshot, right? And then we
Okay.
generate like basic image, and then we have the logic. You have already heard about it, and then we
Okay.
type the logic, the logic as the prompt, and then to
Okay.
generate step by step. And this for section one, we also, because we already have the shape of the model, and then we ask them, we want it, like for example, I don't even remember what the prompt I used, but like for example, I ask, it's already like shape here, but I want this maybe can move. Also, it can play with the water stuff, and also it can walk from the highland to the coastal. So that's the process.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, it sounds like a controlled process. So from our perspective, you're fully responsible
Yeah.
for it, right? You can claim an accident, and
Yes.
I think that's the maybe interesting part. So I think again, maybe having a little bit more time would give you a little bit more control to choose the right the right biomimetic principle, because I agree completely with David. A mangrove is a
true.
low horizontal kind of idea. If you want to go high, you start thinking of trees, other plants that
You're
that
true,
that
you're
grow
true.
that climb. So you need to find essentially bio principles that work at height, essentially. Yeah.
Yeah, true.
But at the same time, you had a little bit in the section a kind of skeleton that worked with filtration systems. So yeah. But anyway, I think it's more, the more interesting projects actually generate the more combative questions, if you will. Yeah. Thank you for your
Yeah,
presentation.
thank you. Yeah, we know we have still a lot of like question because we almost like generate our design within 2 days. So it's of course there's so many limits, and also I also feel like we are lack of like logical between like bio inspiration between our design, and there's something lost between. But if we have more time, we can like be more specific, I think.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a comment, but when I came to think of it, if in the future flooding, it's not just up to the knee, but then flooding is actually up to the top of our head, then maybe this sort of vertical mangrove, we wouldn't be too surprised to see. But anyway, that was just, let's see if Jill or Yao has any last comments before we move on.
Well, I completely agree with the comments of Doria and Tio. And I think that maybe the first part of the research was for like the development part of the rendering AI and this more speculative process that is very awesome, the results. And yeah, maybe the lead of the project is how they use the AI to represent this speculative project. But yes, I guess that is very, very interesting also.
Thank you, Jill.
Thank
Yao?
you.
I don't have much comments. I think the other judges already give a lot of input. I'm just pretty, my only comment is like I'm pretty fascinated by the section model with the level of details. I think that's a very, very great model. And the way you generate it, I think it's quite fascinating.
Thank you so much. Okay, we have two more teams to go. Team one, Ambrose Yuan, Lasco Liang, Xiangren Chao, and James Liu. Are you guys ready?
Yeah, we're good to go. Can everyone see my screen right now?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Ambrose, and our team is from the University of Hong Kong Architecture. And here I'm gonna introduce my project of TerraSpire. Is basically a biomimetic planning basin and soil remediation system in Saishai, is our design. And I think our research question that we're focusing on is after everyone's introduction on how disaster, flooding, and storm destroy the surface of the soil and causes flooding and different chaos to the residents and visitors there, and how should we address the challenges of soil nutrient losses and the contamination and pollution after the storm and typhoon brings to that area. So I think apart from this, our location is slightly different to the other teams. Here are some of our mappings. First of all, I'm going to run through this mapping first. We did this mapping by identifying different wood by different checks. You can see different wood distribution here. And we also have identified the buildings, land uses, watershed, and here's the coastlines. And on the other mapping here, that is more detailed, and I have some labels here, is representing the low-lying areas that we want to look more closely into. And as a team, I have divided two different area that is more should be focused on is the coastal developmental area, and the low-lying area is behind the main road of Saisha, which is this Saisha road here. So I call it a belt. So the location chosen for us is this slope foot buffer zone around here is directly behind the retaining wall of Kunhang village, which where is the flooding happens many times, and you can see a lot of mud line and flood line stained in some of the houses in Kunhang villages. And our inspiration, apart from the bio inspiration and the different forms, the different shapes and aesthetic that we looked at into, we look at Sponge City because the first thing comes to my mind is Sponge City and how it captures water, how it creates controllable discharge, how it purify introduce retention, storage, and infiltration to soil. And I think after the sponge city, I'm going to put aside is bio swells. It is a old concept that a lot of countries and people are doing already in different cities with low-lying area and rainfalls heavily. And I think the main point that we want to focus is infiltration in improving and controllable discharge and purification. So here are some shapes that we looked into. Apart from corals and different biomimicry plants that we look into very often, I choose the seashells, sea sponge, and the bacteriophage that looks very artificial, but it's actually organic because of its crawl here is very good for stabilizing the device. And we've looked at this two direction and we finally go for the pollution legacy, which is where we brings into biodegradable design and phytoremediation. These two concepts combined together as also the bioswales and the phytoremediation system, how they goes together, how we combine it because they're two already existing system, then how we integrate and insulate that into our site, the chosen area, especially behind the Kunhang village. And here are some AI images and rendering some drawings that I made. Here, I think I would talk through this one first. The reason why I call it a planting basin and a remediation system is that we want to make the whole basin and the whole system is biodegradable, is not going to become a burden to the site. It's not going to become a burden to the soil because its main point is to recover the soil, to suck up all the excess pollutants and heavy metals element in the soil after the flooding, because this area is at the foot of the hillside. So a lot of debris, a lot of waste will be flooded down by the heavy rainfall and storm. So it is crucial that we look at biomaterials and how some feelings inside, for example, biochar and different, we actually divide it into 3 layers. And in the outer layer is for infiltration and through this porous cone inspired by Grostiki aesthetic, the kind of art style, and the sea cone, the seashell cone, and it kind of have different texture to have create greater contact to the soil and increase the remediation efficiency. And for the biomaterials for filling inside, it's actually nurturing some microorganisms network inside, along with the phytoremediation plants at the top. For example, vetiver is, and some mini type of mangrove is some species that we're looking into and researching. And their roots can have good grip to the basin, the swell basin or the ground that you can see is not only placed in at the bottom of the basin, it can also be placed somewhere in the villages and throughout the Saisha area for educational purpose and for scenery as well. And back to this diagram here, and there's also a air shaft that is printed or 3D printed by PXA, some biodegradable material that is inspired by some researchers from Provides in CUHK. And I think this porous basin is also allowing more gas exchanges, allowing more contact with this soil. And here is the combination when they can work together as a group to maximize the efficiency. And here is also how they kind of translate into bioswales and at the same time work as a very good scenery in at the site. And I think this is from our team. And thank you for listening.
Thank you. Awesome. Oh, sorry. Yeah, please go ahead.
Can I
Sorry,
jump in? I think it's a great presentation. Also, I mean, within this short period of time, you've gathered a lot of information from the technical aspect as well as the design aspect. But I'm going to make a comment on a very technical side, which I'm absolutely understand due to the time constraint. You probably don't have enough time to look deeply inside each parameters. Could you zoom into the section page on, like right next to, sorry, the one above that shows
all right. Yeah.
different composition of, yes, this one. So my comment is pretty much towards the vermicompost, because how vermicompost work is so pretty much you're feeding food source to tiger worms, or different types of earthworms, and then they will produce basically peas and poops, which is highly nutritious, into the soil, and then the roots of the plants will pretty much absorb, these micronutrients. However, the plant roots cannot absorb the nutrients directly. They need an intermediate species in between in order to break down the nutrients into smaller molecules in order for the roots to be absorbed. And this particular species is mycorrhizal. So what you're having here, which is the vermicompost with the mycorrhizal, it's the perfect combination. But my comments is pretty much about how do you design a system that can host the vermicompost, because like right now, I don't see any feeding system to the earthworms. So once they finish the food within your container, either they, escape to other parts of the soil, or they might just die inside. So you might need to think about how to design this circular system. You can potentially, fit in some food waste, in the center of the tank instead of having a PHA air shaft, or you can have both. But when you look deeply into a particular upcycling, biodegradable system, probably looking at what are the existing solutions and then what are the technical criteria it requires for this particular mechanical system. Okay, that's pretty much my comment. Apart from that, I think it's great. Thank you.
Sure, Miss. Thank you. I'll jot that down. Thank you.
Thank you, Yao. Excellent. Let's see if any other judges have questions or comments.
Maybe as a kind of general comment, not so much. I mean, I think it's evident here as well. I think Yao's comments also so that maybe one of the things that teams might need to consider a little bit as a systemic thought is how does their intervention work on a metabolism level, right? So you need to kind of understand the whole thing rather than, okay, I do an intervention and then it kind of solves the problem. Difficult in just 2 weekends.
Yes.
Thank you, Theo. Thank you.
Yeah, metabolic
Maybe
architecture.
related.
Sorry, you go.
Maybe related to that, one thing that your presentation got me thinking is like right at the start, you show a really interesting analysis of the site and the problematics and your approach, but I feel like your images don't relate to those sites. Maybe I'm missing context, as this is about a place that I've never been to, but I feel like those images aren't really capturing what I see on that like Saisha road image that you have just below. Like you have the road there. You're pointing to where you want to where your intervention is happening, and those images above seem a little bit dislocated for me. So maybe you want to explain that's my question then. What in that particular area, what would the interventions look like? And another thing that crossed my mind, just as a simple question, are those structures designed to degrade over time? Maybe that relates to what Yao was saying in her comment as well.
Yeah, thank you, David. In terms of the visualization is I didn't have so much time to make it accurate site models, and I think that's my problems on the visualization and renderings is not very fitting to the whole context, because some of the houses and some of the retaining walls, and they have wrong dimension here. It's just to present the background of our products, and this is our problem. And secondly, I think to answer your second question about the degradable, is that the term that you mentioned? Yeah.
Yeah, if the elements are degradable.
Yeah.
Biodegradable.
Our aim is to create like a biodegradable basin, and we try to use rammed earth and different biodegradable materials. Like hopefully this will last for about a duration of probably 5 to 10 years. Of course, we need more research on each type of materials and each type of finery of rammed earth that I didn't really talked about here, and the ratio inside it, because we don't want it to disappear quickly. As you know, rammed earth is a material that can be easily destroyed by maybe footsteps or different heavy rainfalls or some wasted crashes into it. So it's the technical thing that we want to look more into if we have chance to do more research on this. Yeah, but hopefully the whole thing will be biodegradable and won't be a burden to the site.
Thank you.
Thank you, David.
And a last comment, I guess. Personally, I think that the model will be repetitive in different areas or different parts of the world. I guess that is not extremely specific to the site, but it is a good solution. I guess that also I lost a bit the part in how it will translate the research, how you are translating the research of the data, ecological data, into the design. But I guess that if you are using AI driven to support like your project, I guess that this is the part in where you can use the AI outputs like the renderings and the images to maybe test and recreate new imaginaries about this model. So yeah, that's my comment.
Sure, Giovanna. Thank you. I think what we need is to really show the illustration process, and unfortunately we didn't quite make it on Rhino. We did, but actually the product that we're not very satisfied with. Yeah, that's from us.
Thank you so much for all the comment. Yeah, I think we see both the power and the limitation of what like generative AI is enabling also through this workshop. So that could be something that we like discuss over afterwards. Now let's move on to the final team, final person actually. So Sijin, he worked as an individual over the past 2 weekends. Crazy guy.
Hello.
I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, one moment. Just let me set up very quickly.
Yep, take
Yeah, it's amazing that the amount of work that has been produced with just one person. I'm really amazed.
No.
Okay. So
He was the first one going out of the boundaries of the mural, so
Yeah.
all right, okay. All right, can you all see my screen or?
Loading. Yep, we
All right,
can.
okay. So I'll be reading off a script and I'll be sharing the Miro screen. So to begin, good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for taking the time to be here. My name is Ziad El-Sarkawi, and I'll be sharing with you my project intervention in Saicha. So Saicha is a mountainous drop-off area that suffers from rainfall and water overflow. The area experiences flooding problems during periods of heavy rainfall and typhoons. The flooding disrupts transportation, damages property, and affects daily life for local residents. Urban planning and improved infrastructure remain important to minimize future flood impacts in the region. So QGIS mapping evidence shows that there are two prevalent water disruptions in the area, one being the water channels that slope downwards on from the mountaintop and the coastal lowland area. To understand the context a little better, analytical representations denote the main water channel streams, evidently mapping out 6 potential high-risk villages affected by rainwater flooding. Those are clear on this slide. And therefore, the Saicha area requires a rethinking of architectural intervention to stop rainwater runoff from the mountain top. I map out, so thinking of water wells as a new form of intervention, my president inspires me to think in structures that inhabit new plant life, but also withhold rainwater. So I map out 3 site areas of interest. So that would be site 1, site 2, site 3. So I decide to move ahead with site 3 to observe village 6. And therefore, I use a rainwater simulation algorithm to find the main stream of rainwater runoff. And then this kind of leads me to my concept where I envision a germination plant shoot that elongates upwards in the site. Ultimately, this one kind of leads me to my design, where you have a tower scraper with a water sink and structural elements of plant life growth, such as the panels and the green screen meshing within the structure. This is a closer look at the petals, which encompasses a growing medium, panels, and the structure holding them together. So to kind of give you a bit of a scale, we're looking at a tower that sits 240 meters in size. So that's the actual height with a kind of a sink that retains the water runoff. Panels and the pods have similar dimensions. The pods rise 20 meters height. And then the panels are a 30 meter in size. So this is kind of the render that I kind of made. This is the only render I have. Sorry, I ran out of credits in Figura, and that would be me. So my name is Ziad El-Sarkawi. You can always find me on my website or my LinkedIn. I'm always happy to collaborate. I'm a free agent at the moment. And with that being said, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Brilliant. Let's hear from the judges.
Right, I will
I can go
start.
first again. Okay, sorry.
Okay. I feel that this process, like a very organic process to go to the research to the final representation. and also having this step by step of a specific detail of the model. So I find in this project something very special, and also understanding that was developing only for one. And I'm not sure if a lot of the data is truly concerned. And well, my question is in how this module is in relation with the research, because I lost a bit in that part.
So I think the project kind of developed by mapping out the main streams from the mountaintop. And then when you specifically speak about how the model represents the research, I think it was just a conceptual envisioning of trying to solve the problem of rainwater runoff by creating these long, large structures that would hopefully retain water and then bring new plant life into the mountainous area. So instead of having the rainwater falling down to the villages, you have these sinkholes that retain the water, and therefore you have the mesh that's working to kind of absorb the water and therefore growing new plant life within these large scraper towers is kind of the project conceptual thesis, I think.
Thank you. It's also very futuristic, speculative, but very concerned in the present. So thank you so much.
Yeah, kudos for building this whole thing alone. First of all, it takes, it's not easy when you don't have interlocutors to discuss. And I really like the kind of logical development from looking at the area to the macro scale, to the simulation, to going down to the lower scale and then developing that. I would say maybe, going back up onto the scale might find ways of how this would recursively kind of affect the larger area. So try to think of, yes, you go from a very logical kind of understanding, go down the slope with the water. Whatever you built there, if you expand it, nature kind of takes over. How would it work for the whole area? Maybe that's my kind of comment from my perspective.
Yeah, I think as a model, it sits as a concept, as a start, but I think it can be repeated throughout the landscape at different scales as well, which could become increasingly interesting.
I think there's something about your project that I like, that makes sense to me, which is going up the hill instead of trying to solve the problem in the villages themselves. So it's a problem sort of created by humans in a given location, and you're having an approach that is really not for humans, right? It has an impact on the villages for slowing down runoff, but you also are considering the topography of the landscape and modifying that in order to find a solution for these problems. And I find that interesting in controversial ways, right? You're creating a sink in a mountainous region. What would be the biological and the natural impacts of that? That could be massive. And just so I don't divert too much, there's not a real question in there. Just wanted to comment on this, and I really appreciate this conceptual level of trying to address the problem in a different location as in comparison to the other projects. I'm not sure if I buy the vertical structure similar to my comment on one of the previous presentations, but I find it intriguing, and I believe that's one of the purposes of this workshop and one of the purposes of what you guys are doing. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Thank you.
Provides we cannot hear you.
Yeah, you're muted.
Sorry. Yes, I was just asking, is there any last comments? Okay, great. Thank you. So now the judges will discuss for 10 minutes. I will open a breakout rooms and everyone else can go on a break except for the judges, unfortunately. Let me try and see one breakout room assigned manually. And okay, now I have to. And we will come back in 20 past. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I think we are back. Let's see. Hi, everyone. We came back. Sorry, it took a bit more time than we thought because it was a very challenging process. Obviously, whoever get the best prize, it doesn't mean that the other team are not good. We understand that this is a very experimental workshop with very a lot of constraint in terms of time, resources, having a real site and have to understand biology, geography, and all these things that we like first came across. And so the prize was more like an encouragement to say that architect should adventure ourselves into computation and into interdisciplinary design, but at the same time knowing what we don't know and how we can like progress in the future. I think that's the best message to take away. And from that, I think I'll invite Theo to help us announce the best mapping prize.
Thank you for that. I enjoyed all projects. It was really interesting seeing you present. I want to congratulate you all for engaging into this for the knowledge, and I hope you get many more ideas that you can develop later. However, we thought after a long discussion and deliberation that the best mapping project was the team that presented first, based on the mycelium concept. And I think we found that you had a good understanding in terms of getting the biomimetic principles of what you were doing, along with having a really clear understanding of mapping the data on the macro scale. And obviously, some of this also came through also on how you presented and the conceptual kind of understanding. So congrats and thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, in terms of best design, there was actually a huge debate in the two projects that finally one got selected. There was one project that we really liked based on their sci-fi speculative design, but then we also think that there are opportunity in designing modules that then can be adaptive to diverse landscape rather than a more traditional architectural intervention of dividing land with water. Instead, having a more resilient approach and having a technical understanding over different layers. And so finally, the sorry, I have to remember a team name. And so finally, the team Terra Spire won the best design. And congratulations to you guys. Yeah. And we are very actually lucky to have you all as participants in this workshop. And we hope that this will not be the end of it, but actually it's a start of a new journey. Then in the future, we will see more projects that can actually synthesize between geography, biology, and architecture into developments. Yay. We will send all the certificate to you. And shall we hear like a round of last comments from all the judges as both encouragement and criticism to everything that you've heard today?
Well, for me, like congratulations for everyone because it's a very challenge workshop where you can think in more than one discipline. And yeah, the time is always difficult or it's more challenging to have results. But with that, it's very good to have you and understanding how you can translate AI, new technologies, computational design, and conceptual design, also doing research in different biological areas and everything in just few days and to develop one project. So congratulations for everyone.
Thank you so much, Gio.
I'm gonna try and jump next. Congrats to all. It's always very challenging to combine different domains of knowledge and then actually also executing. So congrats on making it until the presentation. I think if I can kind of encourage you to keep on working on this idea of understanding nature in a much more deep manner and understanding how you can use it, you can use the principles it works under as a leverage to design. And this doesn't mean that it might always have a natural looking form, right? So sometimes this kind of biomimetic thinking might be completely hidden in terms of the form. I would also encourage you to really explore the possibilities of AI in terms of speculating in terms of form, but also being extremely critical of it, right? We need to be actually absolutely vigilant because it can produce really alluring images that take away the control that you might have as a designer. And as a final thought, I would say that I think it's an interesting setup on trying to bring biomimesis into a kind of data-driven kind of idea. And potentially the key thing that you might want to take out of it is, what would be your philosophical position, right? What is kind of like your design stance in terms of combining these two? Maybe some food for thought for your next project.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks everyone for your presentations and your projects. As I said a lot during my comments, I really appreciate the effort and the outcome of these 4 days that you guys were working on
3
this
days.
project. 3 days, so yeah, that's insane. And my comment for you would be that personally, I'm a really skeptic of generative AI as just the final product, and I would advise you to. My advice for you would be to think critically, as you put it, over how and when you use these tools and what it can enforce, because yeah, it can be really easy to get a nice image and forget the process that will lead you to that image in your journey. And I feel like there are a lot of really interesting ways to use artificial intelligence, machine learning projects that can be really beneficial, like what it actually brings you from a critical stance to your project, what it actually brings to your project. That's what I mean. And yeah, and one thing that I really appreciate about these environments is the freedom to be speculative, and having those exercises and seeing people sharing their experiments is really I think beneficial to all of us if we want to discuss architecture and we want to discuss real problems. And the more seriously you take speculative work, the better the outcomes I think it is. Yeah, thank you again for the presentations, and hope seeing you guys in the future. Yeah, bye-bye.
Thank you. And Yao?
Right. I think really appreciate all the presentations you guys did today. It was quite fascinating to see such a diverse group of different results. And I think, well, thank you, Provides, for inviting me. Actually, I'm quite happy to sit here today and then looking on all these projects. And I think as the tutors, you guys actually did a fascinating job in terms of how to teaches this group of students within 3 days and to fit in the amount of content. I think it's a huge amount of work. And to be honest, I wish I can sit in the student's role and so I can go through these procedure. And as you guys all know, I was trained in more of a robotic fabrication manner. So I work more around the physical aspect of the project. Similar to what David pretty much commented, I think speculation is one way of doing design. On the other side, when you finish the project, if you're still interested in continuous in some of the research, you can probably look into how to gather the physical data from certain aspect of the project and then start refining the AI as a real tool that would be shaped by a more, I would say, real data that you collected. So then you will be able to understand how do you integrate the physical world with this metaverse world. So that's pretty much my comment.
Thank you. Let's hear if Carlos and Jane also has the last feedback.
No, it's been a really amazing experience, and I think that the most valuable thing that we are all taking from this are all these ideas that have a lot of potential. So I like to think of the end of this workshop as the beginning of something else. So please, everyone has great ideas. Keep on developing, keep on learning, and we live very happy that we have. I think we have planted this seed of curiosity on all these topics.
You're muted, Carlos.
Oh, Carlos,
I'm
we
so
cannot
sorry.
hear you.
I was muted. I was speaking. Well, I was saying I'm living very, very satisfied with the results of this workshop. I mean, all these ideas, I think that this is the most important thing, that you're taking these ideas. I like to think of this workshop as the end of this workshop as the beginning of something else. And we really encourage you to keep on developing these ideas. They have a lot of potential. And I think that's it. We are ending this very satisfied with the results and really expectant to see what you come up in the future. So thank you very much, guys.
Thank you. And Jane.
Thank you for all the discussion. I think some of the comments are really add spices on the projects. I really like the ideas of like degradable materials or the nutrients of some of the projects. I think it's really adding another layer of the projects, the size of the scale of the space, and some like form calculations. And I think they really did a great work in such a short time. Like we try to combine some data-informed algorithms and QGIS mapping, and they are because some of them are not even like has a architecture background, and they are learning and trying to apply the methods we have taught, but with the AI tools, and they are able to deliver at least their conceptual ideas. And I think it's really, and also I think it's really valuable to have this discussion on AI, because actually yesterday evening at the very end of this tutorial workshops, we also had a discussion on the AI, like how can we treat the AI, or how can we use the AI as a tool in our design works? How can we still stay within our design logic and within the systematic thinking, even with a tool like exhibiting the workflows. So I think it's a very inspiring and valuable experience and teaching with the Nabi and the Carlos and Provides, and also involving the discussion with the judges. Thank you.
Yeah, I also have to thank all of the instructors. It was a great pleasure working with you, and I have to thank the jury for like spending Sunday with us. And your comments are really helpful. So I will hopefully in the next workshop be able to done better. And of course, I have to thank all of the participants. It's crazy that you guys spent 2 weekends, Saturday, Sunday, some of you waking at 4 a.m. every day to like do this. And I really admire you guys. So participants and instructor, please stay behind for a beer with me. And thank you everyone for attending the Contextual Intelligence workshop